So hi, everyone. I am Deborah Augustus. I have been on the ISM New Jersey panel, or I'm sorry, the committee for a number of years, as Susie mentioned. I am with Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals for a number of years. And I am very happy to be here to introduce our next session, which is a panel discussion on finding your why that will be facilitated by Sarah Scudder. So Sarah is president of RFN. It is a technical startup that offers an innovative and painless way for procurement executives and marketers to buy high quality print for less. What defines Sarah? Sarah loves helping procurement professionals transform the way they buy print and marketing services. She helps by speaking at industry events, serves on panels, hosts webinars, and she writes articles for Sourcing Industry Group and the Procurement Foundry. She created the Procure Rising, a magazine that uncovers the unique stories of doers in our sourcing community. And if you haven't noticed, Sarah is becoming a marketing procurement LinkedIn celebrity. So no autographs, please, though. That was her words, not mine. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much. And to just introduce the panel discussion about finding your why, you'll be learning from key leaders from different industries on how they found their why and what continues to keep them being key leaders. So please welcome Sarah Scudder and our esteemed panel for our discussion.
Thank you, Deborah. It's an honor to moderate this panel today. Some of my very dear friends are on the panel and some of my industry colleagues, so always fun to reconnect remotely. So as Deborah mentioned, our discussion today is around finding your why. And to me, that means finding the thing that compels you to do the work you do and the thing that you just can't imagine not doing. I feel very, very blessed that at a young age, I was able to kind of fall into a personal and professional passion. Personally, I absolutely love connecting people. I get so much joy out of helping others. And professionally, I randomly fell into marketing procurement, and it's become my love and passion. So our panelists today are going to share some really fun, interesting stories about their journeys, about how they found their whys or their passions. So I want this to be super interactive. So you'll see at the bottom, we have a chat function. So feel free to put comments, notes, shout outs. None of us on the panel are shy. And then if you have specific questions for a panelist or a general question, feel free to put that in the chat as well. And I'll be managing that throughout. And then if we have time, we'll take a couple questions at the end. So I want to kick off our panel today with a question for David. And as I do this, I want to remind the panelists to introduce yourself when you get your first question and make sure to share your why. So introduce yourself and share your why. So David, we are going to start off with you today. So tell us about your passion, and what I'm really curious about is how did you develop it? And David, you're on mute. All right, looks like he's connecting to audio again. All right, David, you're still muted. All right, we're gonna jump over to Mike, and we'll let David get connected to the audio. So Mike is a dear friend of mine. He's had a really interesting career as a chief procurement officer and now an entrepreneur. So Mike, my question for you to start us off is, what made you start an online collaboration community for sourcing and procurement practitioners? So give us your background and how you started this whole community.
Can you all hear me? Let's start with that. Yes? Fantastic. David, I'm sorry to take the new slide. I assure you.
No, it's perfectly fine.
I've had more.
Can you guys hear me now?
Last week than anyone on the planet, so I feel your pain.
All right.
So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Mike Cadieux. I am the founder of Procurement Foundry. Do we have any Procurement Foundry members in the room? Anyone? Procurement Foundry members? Wow, there's a few. Fantastic. And also thank you to the ISM New Jersey. This is my second time at the ISM New Jersey, one time physically and one time virtually. So it's nice to be back. I am a chief procurement officer by trade. I spent the last 20 years, probably 30 years if you include my my seafood industry background, procuring and supply chain management. I worked for a digital advertising agency in Austin called Digitas. I then took over the role for Publicis Group as their chief procurement officer for the Americas. I had a team of 50 or 60 people. I managed about $2.5 billion in spend. So I'm a lifelong practitioner like most of you are. I'm just in the indirect space, not necessarily in the supply chain space, which I think is an amazing, as I learn more about supply chain, for those of you in supply chain, you do amazing work and congratulations. And I'm mystified at what you do. It's more of an art form than even indirect. So congratulations to you. My reason for starting an online collaboration community was out of necessity. So I left Publicis Group and pulled the Jerry Maguire moment, minus the fish, and started my own consulting practice with absolutely no clients. I didn't even have Cuba Gooding Jr. And and when I started my consulting practice and landed my first client, I realized I haven't actually negotiated a contract in about 10 years. I've got teams of people to do this for me, and my skill is a little bit weak. The last time I negotiated a Microsoft agreement, we were buying perpetual licenses and not SaaS. So I started a small little group of about 50 people. It was kind of Fight Club for procurement people. It was quiet. Nobody talked about it. It was a LinkedIn group, and you could invite friends if you wanted to. Over the next 4 months, that group of 50 people went to about 1,000 people. And I realized that there's a drastic need for collaboration, community, networking, and engagement inside of supply chain professionals and procurement professionals. That shouldn't be a shocker to anybody in this room. We are not the most exciting conferences to go to. We're just above the accounting conference on best times to meet people. So I thought that it would be really good to put together a collaboration community and get a place where people can talk all around the world. Our collaboration community is free, so that there's no barrier to entry. And we have 3,500 members now in 15 months. So, and we're in 111 countries as of this morning. So we have a massive Slack-based community. Thank you, Scudder, for putting up the URL. You're all welcome to come, as long as you're not on the sell side. We do not let sell side people into our community. If you would like to be attacked by sell side people, please keep hanging out on LinkedIn. That is that's my reason for starting Procurement Foundry, was because I was using it for knowledge expertise in my consulting practice. And then I realized I probably am a community builder more than a consultant. And now I focus 100% of my time on building out communities for all of you, actually, believe it or not. So for those of you who are Procurement Foundry members, thank you. For those of you who aren't, I'd love to have you in my community so that you can share and grow with the other 3,500 friends.
And Mike, what is your favorite thing about having your own business? And I know it's not easy, and there's a lot of sleepless nights and craziness that happens, but what's one of the things that you love about being an entrepreneur and going out on your own?
The prescription medication. No, being an entrepreneur, it's the last great hurdle for a thrill junkie. So if you've built a career, if you've clawed your way up, if you haven't been given very much and worked your way from junior associate up to CPO, the only thing that's left is for you to go out and start your own thing. And what better than to jump out of a plane at 30,000 feet with no clients and see if you can build something. It's truly the only thing I haven't achieved in my career. So I thought, okay, I'll jump out of a moving plane and give up a CPO global role and start a company with no clients and see if I can make something of it before I hit the ground at 600 miles per hour. Yeah.
And we can see you've been busy, Mike. There's lots of screens behind you. Mike has lots of computers.
Sorry, I have a stand-up desk and a sit-down desk. According to my doctor, I need that. So.
All right, thanks, Mike. So now we're gonna switch over to David. So David, if you can introduce yourself, tell us about your why, and how did you develop your passion?
Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me now. My name is David Johnson. I'm Vice President of Technology Sourcing with Barclays Bank. I've been in procurement for just over 25 years. That's right. I started right out of kindergarten. Nobody disagrees. Okay, perfect. I have two real passions, right? Very passionate about technology. I'm a super tech nerd. If there's a new gadget or a new gizmo, I want to see it, touch it, play with it. And that's what's kept me in sourcing and technology sourcing for a long time. But on the other side, and what I consider to be my real why, it's showing people who grew up like I grew up that there's an alternate route to success. I grew up in the projects in the 80s and 90s, in the middle of the crack epidemic. And my definition of success was a drug dealer. The guy who had the nice car, the guy who got all the girls, wasn't a doctor, he wasn't a lawyer, he was a drug dealer. So for me, my personal why, my passion is ensuring that, you know, people who are in economically underdeveloped areas get to see a successful person that looks like them. So mentoring. I go back to my high school. I work with a couple of different organizations. I helped build the mentoring program for women in leadership here. I work with Rutgers. I'm trying to work with Rutgers and other organizations so that I can ensure that teenage boys in the inner city see another definition of success. From a procurement perspective, entrepreneurship, supplier diversity, helping these people who don't necessarily have a leg up and don't necessarily get to see successful people, give them the opportunities that they may not have had otherwise. That's my passion, and that's what keeps me going to work every day at Barclays, even though sometimes I want to flip out and flip over tables. That's me in a nutshell.
David, thanks for opening up and sharing that story with us. What would you say is the one most important factor that helped you, get into the career that you did? Because if you are not exposed to mentors or opportunities, it can be very, very challenging for people.
It's interesting. I started this thought process around mentorship and fostering entrepreneurship because I realized that when I was coming up and when I was in school, they didn't teach me to be an entrepreneur. They taught me how to get a job. And moving into procurement, I was fortunate enough to have people who saw potential in me, right? And it wasn't like it is now, right? There are multiple supply chain programs in multiple schools. Rutgers has one, Temple has one, Union County College, a community school in New Jersey now has a supply chain program. Finding your why, and as a student, understanding that it's okay to try things out, and that you're not married to whatever role you pick when you're 18 or 20, is a message that we as professionals and as teachers and as mentors and coaches have to give to these kids, right? Try something out, figure out if you like it. But when you do it, find a mentor, find someone who's been in this role, been in this job, latch onto them and learn from them. And that's been a key message that I said I give to the kids when I go back to my high school. That's a key message that I've given to anyone who I work with. It's super important for us as supply chain professionals, as adults, to mold and grow people. Anyone that you talk to, it should be someone you learn from.
All right, thank you, David. I'm seeing a theme quickly develop here around entrepreneurship. I think everyone on the panel, whether they're working for a big company or not, has some sort of entrepreneur bug and is doing a lot personally and professionally to help others in that space. So one of my favorite entrepreneurs, Amanda, has joined our panel today. Amanda, you've got some big, exciting news to share as well. So make sure to let us know what you've been up to. But my question for you is, how has your why helped you make big decisions in your career, including the most recent and really exciting is launching your own business?
Yeah, so thank you so much. First of all, ISM New Jersey, you guys are fantastic. This is I don't know how many times I've engaged with you all, but I just love the interaction and seeing all your lovely faces today. So, and Sarah's right, I do have some big news. So I spent 16 years in procurement. And working on various different opportunities, but most of them were large scale transformations. So if you can imagine, you probably lived through a technology implementation or two, or a divestiture or an acquisition, new openings, whatever that might be. I was usually at the lead of it. And I had just some amazing experiences building out those capabilities and leading those projects. But I got challenged when I was, about 5 years ago. I was actually at a women's conference, and the presenter was basically saying, you can't develop and lead other people unless you are developing yourself. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It seems like a very simple concept, but I wasn't doing it. Like I was so focused on getting the day-to-day done that I was not spending time to really reflect about what my purpose was, what my why is, why I go to work every single day. So I started diving deep into what meant everything to me personally, professionally, in my home life, what was driving me every single day. And so I actually started drafting different words and different phrases down for myself. And I finally realized it was to be the light for everyone around me. So if I can bring light and uplift other people in my day-to-day interaction, no matter what I'm doing, if it's with my family, my colleagues, my team, the suppliers, whatever that might be, then I know that I'm hitting on my purpose. And so my secondarily thing behind that was don't live in fear, because what I realized was a lot of why I wasn't being that light for other people was because I was fearful of taking some big next steps in my life. And one of those was actually becoming an entrepreneur. So about almost 2 years ago now, I decided to go out on my own. And I started a company called HPP, which is all about process improvement. Then I decided, why not start a second one and really give back to the community in procurement and start the first ever global women's organization for procurement professionals. And then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, well, that was unexpected. And so I started reflecting even more about how I can continue to give back in such a broader way than what I was doing in my corporate role. And one of my passions always was about change management, and how so often we don't hit the mark on change management in our day-to-day activities. So I developed Wonder Services, which we just launched this week. And it's all about doing change management differently and actually engaging people in the change. And I know that sounds simple sometimes, but sometimes, like in a big technology change or a reorganization change, we get focused on the change itself instead of the people that we're impacting day to day. So I want to change the game in that space, and I'm excited to help as many people as I can.
And Amanda, what advice would you give for those here today who are wanting maybe to do something entrepreneurial, but they're afraid, they're hesitant, they don't know where to start?
I would say, go do. That's my big motto. Like, go do. Like there are opportunities out there where you can still keep your day-to-day job and do a special project for an entrepreneur. But start somewhere small, start exploring, start building a business plan, just start doing. It does not have to be like Michael said, he jumped out of a plane, which is frankly a bit like how I did it, right? So I just went all in. which is not for everyone. So some people just have to start small, but just go and do. Research, explore, build connections, and all of a sudden you'll be one step closer to that dream.
As Nike's motto says, just do it.
Yes.
Well,
by the way, I don't recommend our model to anybody at all. It's not for the weak at heart.
Yeah, I agree.
Find somebody, do a project for Amanda, see if you like it, and then play the game.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to talk to any of you about that.
I've put Amanda's new website in the chat function. So if you want to check out what her and her partner are up to, feel free to do that. All right. Thank you, Amanda. Next, I want to introduce our fourth panelist and shift the conversation a little bit around personal passion around supplier diversity. So Punita, given recent events, it seems that supplier diversity is becoming more of a priority for companies that didn't have programs in place previously. I know this is a personal passion of yours. What drives your passion for companies to have supplier diversity programs put in place? And you're on, oh, there you go.
Yeah, unmuting myself would help, wouldn't it? Well, thank you guys. I really am enjoying listening to everyone's story and learning about the wonderful group at ISM New Jersey. So thank you for allowing me to participate and having me share a little bit of my story with you guys. So I am Vice President of Global Supplier Diversity for JP Chase. And I'm responsible for program management for our global supplier diversity program. And you kind of have to pinch myself sometimes to say, wow, how lucky am I that I can have impact on a number of different people in many, many ways. So a little bit about me. I did not start off thinking that I was going to be a procurement person. I actually started off thinking that I was going to be an astronaut and then quickly changed to trying to be a lawyer. And reality check came in, and I actually ended up in finance at the end of all of those explorations. And in finance, I was, I started off actually in the investment banking side. And what that really taught me was how to do due diligence, how to analyze a deal, and then negotiate, right? And so I naturally started falling into what are kind of some of the key elements of being a great procurement person. And then, passing through, kind of a couple of different changes, I ended up in strategic sourcing for a while. And from strategic sourcing, I got an opportunity to really, as the next stage of my career, move into supplier diversity. I'd been working in strategic sourcing for a little bit and in a couple of different areas. And throughout my career, I've been interested in diversity, whether it's on the broader human resource side, as how a firm looks at it, all the way through supplier diversity in every single aspect, whether I was operationally running a department, whether I did a little bit of a stint in the entrepreneurial track. All throughout my life, I looked at ways to include others in what we were doing or some opportunities. And so when an opportunity came along to look at supplier diversity, we thought, wow, how fantastic is this, right? This is kind of the accumulation of being able to help people, help include the broader spectrum of businesses that may not necessarily have access or need a pathway, as well as using some of the skills that I have acquired over the years. So in our role in supplier diversity, I think that people start to think about just direct opportunities for contracts, but the way we think about it and the way we think about the programs at JP Chase, we really have kind of stepped back and said, what does it mean to really impact the community and really provide access? And that includes everything from having a contract to thinking about the downstream effect. What do you need? Do you need education? Do you need training? And then how does that impact the community as a whole? So we know that every time that we hire or utilize a diverse company, that they are actually utilizing more of their dollars in their direct communities, as well as hiring more diverse employees. And then that trickles down into supporting their community, into their local shops, being able to send their next generation to colleges, and kind of promoting that next level of education. So we kind of think about it as a dynamic effect on how do we impact broader economic good. And so that's how our approach to diversity is. So just before this, I was a little lax in my signing on today into this conference, because we had an opportunity to release today what we are doing in terms of our efforts around social impact after, of course, the COVID crisis. And that's what I kind of wanted to answer your question on the social unrest and how the place is changing. And we had a number of organizations that had come to start to realize that diversity in how they approach diversity is important, and kind of started to take that broader approach that we were thinking about, right? How do we think about it from how does it impact our employees? How does it impact the community we're working in? How does it impact our customers? And how does it impact our suppliers? And can all of us be partners in this framework? And how can we support maybe the local governmental bodies also as we're doing this? So we were actually just releasing earlier today our commitment on social economic responsibility for a corporation. And it's pretty, if you guys get a chance, take a look at it. It's on our corporate responsibility sites, but we just announced a 5-year, $30 billion commitment towards helping economic and social economic impact for the underserved communities. And it's pretty comprehensive, because we're looking at it from how can we teach everything from financial health all the way through to entrepreneurial health? How do we create access to dollars? And how do we really open up the thoughts around thinking a little bit more aggressively around including diverse suppliers in our supply chain, as well as promoting and helping others look at it. And from that framework, we actually, from JP Morgan Chase's perspective, we work with a lot of our suppliers if they don't have supplier diversity programs. We work with our clients if they don't have supplier diversity programs. Sometimes governmental bodies, they come to us and kind of want to talk through various levels, everything from how do I start a program, how do I think about it, or how do I enhance our program. So we've been doing some of, and it's all free consulting, right, on our part, on how that would work. And so that's some of the ways in which we're thinking about it.
And if you want to put the website link in the chat so we can all check out the thing you just mentioned that was released today, feel free to do that. Okay. And one follow-up question for you. For those that are interested in getting more involved or engaged in supplier diversity and don't have a background in that, what would you recommend?
So I'd recommend a couple of different things. There are organizations like the NMSDC, the Women's Business Development Council, ISM, which also has a Supplier Diversity Council. So there's a number of ways in which one can learn about supplier diversity. There are many governmental bodies that have information on supplier diversity. And if you guys want to have a deep dive conversation, I'm happy to have one with you also.
All right, great. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to shift the conversation back over to Mike. So Mike, you and I are very similar in that we have a lot of things that we're excited and passionate about. And sometimes it's easy to get distracted when you have so many different things you enjoy. What continues to fuel your interest in supply chain and procurement? Got to unmute.
I am so sorry. Probably the fact that it's constantly changing. And I mean, that's kind of what drew me to procurement as a whole. Was there's something new to buy every day. And, you know, I consider myself basically to be a professional shopper, just with a really big bank account, right? And it depends on whether you're buying software or hardware. Like, it's constantly changing. I'm not one to do the same thing all the time, and that really drew me to that. And then I also realized that supply chain and procurement and sourcing, in my opinion, is about 70% art form and 30%, you know, process, and there's a lot more art to it. And so for me, I think that the perfectly orchestrated 80-page contract with a very large cloud provider is the Mona Lisa. And I think that it takes that much effort in some cases. It's not, the Sistine Chapel, but it's for me, I see it as a work of art, and that for me really is what drives me to enjoy it, and to see other people now. I'm not actively engaged in it anymore, but to have a community full of people who do it all day long is fantastic, and to see them helping each other is probably the ultimate thing for me, which is, I wanted to build something for the practitioners and give something back to the industry, which is why everybody joins our community with their personal information and not their corporate information. And I like to see people grow and expand and share job opportunities and things like that. So for me, I think it really goes back to just helping folks and helping folks in their craft of procurement and sourcing.
I think we've just come up with our new recruitment campaign for our industry, something around professional shopping or come be a shopper. I think we'd recruit a lot of high schoolers and college students that way.
Yeah. You think your parents got a big credit card? Wait till you see what your new employer will have.
We'll have to work with Amanda's company. We can work on a marketing campaign around it.
That sounds like a perfect plan.
Sure.
So
can you just put Mike Cadieux at the bottom of that somewhere?
We'll give you some credits.
Yes.
So I'm a big fan of storytelling, and I think it's one of the best ways that we can learn lessons in life and help others. And so I've asked David to share a story with us today. So David, I'd like you to share your Let's Get It On story.
Okay. Sarah asked for a couple of interesting facts about me, and I mentioned this story, and now I feel like I may regret it, but all right, buckle up, everybody. This is going to be fun. Picture it: Staten Island, public school 44, 19-ish, 5-year-old me, standing on stage preparing with the rest of my kindergarten class to graduate. We had a song that we were singing. I can spell hog, H-O-G. I can spell dog, D-O-G, but I can't spell hippopotamus, H-I-P-P-O. That's as far as I can go. Bright, beautiful, little old me gets the hippopotamus at the end, the solo. I get to spell out hippopotamus. Did it a bunch of times in our rehearsal. H-I-P-P-O-T-O, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to try and spell it now because I can't think of it. Everybody claps. Hooray. Now I'm sitting in front of my parents, grandparents, a bunch of other parents. Spell out hippopotamus. Nobody claps. I was singing. I had so much fun. My eyes were closed. My head was thrown back. Nobody claps. So I kept singing. I sang my favorite song. At the time, my favorite song was Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. Need I remind you that I was 5. Let's Get It On is not a good song for a 5-year-old. So hippopotamus comes out, what seems like a very long time, no one claps, and then little old me starts singing, I've been really trying, baby, trying to hold back this feeling for so long. And if you feel like I feel, baby, come on. Oh, come on. Let's get it on. And that's when Miss Taylor, my kindergarten teacher, pulled me off the stage and everybody finally started clapping. That's the Let's Get It On story. Absolutely nothing to do with procurement, but it does speak a little bit to my motivation. There are 2 people in my life that I have to impress. And that's been my kind of thought process since I was in my 30s. That's that little 5-year-old me and 85-year-old me. Most of the things that I do are to impress those 2 people. The 5-year-old me is to make sure that I'm having fun. Right? Am I loving what I'm doing? Am I having fun, or am I enjoying myself? Can I laugh every day? The 85-year-old me is when I'm lying on my deathbed or when I'm sitting in the old folks home telling stories to my grandkids, do I have stuff to be proud of? And that's what pushes me to do the things that I do. If it's, you know, the work that I do with the teenagers in school, if it's tying a tie for a 17-year-old, if it's being a mock interviewer to help him out on his first interview, whatever it is, that's what drives me to do those things. And it all started with Let's Get It On.
Thank you for sharing. And if we have time at one of these ISM events, I think we need to have David do a solo performance for us here.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I can't sing quite as well as I used to.
But it's a good reminder for all of us to think about what sort of legacy do we want to leave, and you know, when we do age, what do we want to be remembered for, and what impact do we want to make? Quinto, I'm going to shift the conversation back to you. A lot of times I'll get people that I work with either on a mentor basis or people through the industry, and they'll say, you know what, I'm not happy. I'm not loving what I'm doing. My work isn't fueling me. I'm not passionate about it. What advice do you have for someone who is trying to make a career shift or find something else within procurement or supply chain or whatever they're doing that's going to make them happy and something that they can be passionate about?
Yeah, so I think that we have to get comfortable with the fact that not all stages of our life will we have something that we're passionate about that we're doing, right? You know, there's going to be things that we're doing in our day-to-day work life that may not be our passion. And even when you think about some of the stuff that you know, Michael or Amanda talks about, like the running a business and kind of getting to kind of the vision of what implementing that's the passion. But all this painful steps that they may have to take in between, all that other work, that's not the passion piece, but it's the work that has to be done. And I think in our everyday work life, whether you're a business owner or you're a corporate person, there are those moments and there's those time frames where we have that. But in order to kind of this is what I think, this is how I frame it, and then you know, you guys can take that as how you would apply it. And so I've had those moments, right, where there's projects, there's things, maybe there's a category that I've been handed over to kind of fix or look at that was not my passion. But I looked at it like, this is a fantastic challenge. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z because that's what I have to deliver. And then you have to look for your moments in that work that say, oh, this is the kind of work, like I like to solve problems. I like to connect people. How can I change this around so that's different, so that then you can find some joy in that work. In addition to that, I think that when your work isn't your passion, then you have to look outside of that, right? And say, you know, do I have something that I'm committed to that gives me excitement and joy? Are there kids that I can mentor? Is there some other thing? Do I enjoy doing sports? Do I take that out? And is that my passion? Do I have a hobby? What things make me happy? And that's how you find your passion and create that balance in your life. And then at some point, I definitely, you know, when I started my career, I had no clue that I would end up thinking about supplier diversity, right? As my go-to point that would answer my need of being creative, problem solving, creating opportunities, yet being able to serve a community that has a broader purpose, right? Like I landed in that through all of my interest points. It didn't just happen because that was my target. And there are folks that may be their target, but you almost still have to go through, you know, the things that you need to do on a daily basis. And then, you know, that's how you combine it. I think that the people that I've come about, I'd say the majority of the people, 95%, you know, they don't have the roles in their lives that's the passion of what they're doing, but they're finding ways to combine it. And that's how I've landed on it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really good point about how to balance or juggle personal versus professional passion. So I'm going to have Amanda close out our formal Q&A session. And then if you have any additional questions you'd like me to ask the panelists, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll have a couple minutes before our session ends. So Amanda, why should your why be different for work versus your daily life?
So, and I think this is really a personal question for a lot of you, because sometimes you have so distinct, but what I have found my underlining driving force in my life, just like what David was saying, the 5-year-old versus the 85-year-old self, he didn't distinguish my 5-year-old business self versus my 5-year-old personal self. That is who he is. And that's really where I come from too. My why, my passion, being a light for others, that is across the board. And really, Sarah, at the end of the day, what happened for me, in my personal life, I'm raising 2 young women. They at the time when I was reflecting all of this, I think they were 7 and 5, maybe even slightly younger. And I was thinking to myself, I want to be the light for them, but I also want to be the example for them to do the same thing in their lives. So to me, it really finding that driving purpose, what motivates you even each and every day. So when you do hit those things that you have to do, that you're like, oh, I hate doing this. Like, I hate billing clients. Like, I just don't like doing it, but I know if I don't, I'm not going to make any money. So, but you have to get through some of those things. But what you need to do is have that grounding purpose, that why that you have, to bring it all back in and say, I know absolutely why I am doing this today and why I need to accomplish it. And so to me, there's no difference. There is my passion, my why. It propels me forward each and every day. It has made me make some crazy choices in my life, right? Leaving a really, really great job a year before a pandemic to start my own companies. But I knew if I wanted to truly be the light to others, I needed to not have that fear, and I needed to go out and help as many people as I could. And the entrepreneur path was the way to do that for me. And so for me, absolutely, it's across the board. What drives me in my personal and professional life is the same why.
Yeah, and the entrepreneurship path, I see you live it and breathe it every day, and you have so much energy. It's really nice to see someone being able to make a business out of something that they love and drives them.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put each of our panelists on the spot and close out our discussion today with what is next for you. You can mention whether that's personally, professionally, both. So Mike, I'm going to have you kick off. What is next for you? You're on mute.
Sorry about that again. What's next for me is growth. I love the fact that, and I always knew I wanted to help people, and that seems to be kind of an underlying theme here. I always knew that I wanted to help people. I always knew that we didn't network really great as a profession. For me, it's all about growth and helping more people and getting my community bigger and helping people find jobs or happiness in their jobs or success in their jobs and their personal lives and things like that. So for me, the bigger my community gets, the more that's it. Just more growth, more help, more people, more communal intelligence helping each other. That's my primary thing right now is how do I get more people to help more people?
And for those of you who haven't attended, Mike puts on a lot of really great education events throughout the year. So check out their website if you're looking to just do more networking in general or get more information or education. He has a really good program set up. So thanks, Mike.
Oh, Sarah, one last thing. I did put the 2020 salary and compensation survey information in. I know this is a forum focused on ladies today, for the most part, and some of that salary and compensation data might help you negotiate your annual review and negotiation. I hope it helps bridge the gap.
All right, thanks, Mike. So Mike put a survey with some information about salary and compensation, and there's a section about women in procurement, so you might want to check that out. Yeah. All right, Punita, what is next for you?
So I'm really excited about the industry itself. Where as you're saying, there's such a heightened interest in supporting diversity across the board. So we are looking at rolling out all the new things that we're talking about, and then I'm looking forward to enhancing some of the thoughts and implement and actual activations around global supplier diversity that's going on in the community. That's an area that is up and coming, and so I'd like to really enhance some of those activities in the coming years.
Excellent, thank you. And as she mentioned, if you're looking for a resource or information on just supplier diversity, please reach out. She has a lot of knowledge and background in that space. So David, other than practicing your vocals for the next ISM event, it sounds like you're going to be our entertainment. What is next for you?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm putting on a concert of Marvin Gaye and Elton John songs apparently at the next meeting, but I'm going to definitely continue down the line of working as a mentor. So I chair the Emerging Professionals Committee here at ISM New Jersey. I'm working with an organization called Dignity of Children in New York. They run a Young Sharks competition for middle schoolers and high schoolers, focusing on the entrepreneurial spirit. Barclays has a program called Rise, which is, it's part venture capital, but it's also working with entrepreneurs to as a kind of a seed place for them to develop their business plans and continue to move forward. As a sourcing person and a young-ish African-American male, it's important for me to, again, as my why statement stated, show people that grew up like me, that look like me, women, minority-owned businesses, that there is a path to success and to help them get there. And I'm going to continue to do that until I'm no longer walking this planet.
Thank you, David. You have motivational speaking in your future, I think.
Absolutely.
All right, Amanda, we're going to close out the panel discussion today with what's next for you.
So one thing, as you might have mentioned, with my whole uplifting others passion and focus area, one thing that we're doing at Wonder Services is we are highlighting people who bring their authentic leadership to the table every single day. So whether they're businesses, business owners, they're people leading change, they are people looking for new jobs, new opportunities, we're actually doing 10 to 12-minute interviews with them and then highlighting them across our LinkedIn platform, on our website. They can use those videos for their own self-promotion and whatever they need to use it for. So we're actively looking to help people in that space. And so if you're interested in having your story shared with the world, please contact me. We're more than happy to collaborate together and uplift everyone as we do it.
Amanda, can you put your contact information in the chat? So if you're interested in being featured in her series, please connect with Amanda offline and she'll make a fun video for you to share your story. All right, well, thank you so much to ISM New Jersey for getting this rockstar panel together. Thank you to all of my panelists. You're entrepreneurs and doing really great work in our industry. And Kim, I'm going to turn it back over to you.